It's a new world. 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 Yo, celebrate the new life. New ways to make money. New ways to break dummies. Forge they name and take money. Computers ain't that smart. Whatever man built could be taken apart. Anything new can get old. Like dudes started rocking platinum. Some stopped wearing gold. Solar energized rides. No steering wheel, tell it how to drive. No propellers in the sky. Airplanes like mini rockets. Waiting lists for the rich to get tickets to visit Mars. While the poor people starve. Computers taking over their jobs. A man's forced to live off land. Now it's back to the caveman era. When we made fire by two sticks rubbing together. The truth is many are too scared of new data. America online, cut off, see you later. Yo, welcome to the new world. New beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. New life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for man, children and women. Yo, the new Mike Tyson's Roy Jones, Bill Clinton's the new JFK. Without the hole in his dome, the new Don Trump is Bill Gates. Not because it's occupation, it's cause we respect his cake. The cake meaning stock, net gross. Young kids step it up, go for the most. New cameras and police cars taking pictures. New hustlers getting new street figures. And US embassies overseas. Almost every foreign country's under siege. Covertly starting wars. CIA, Navy SEALs commit larcenies that be worth over mills. Oil in the earth spills. Girls blow their body up, birth control pills. Africans pick diamonds out of dark caves. Then we wear it on our necks just so we can light up the stage. Yo, welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. New life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for man, children and women. Say goodbye to the brainwashed. Say goodbye to the young kids who not smart. Say goodbye to the toasters and Pop-Tarts. Yo, it's real. Swallow a little pill is a full-course meal. Say hello to the one world. Say hello to the sky. Something's out there watching you and I. More Tyson than Star Trek. Star Trek phones, your genes and DNA is used to make clones. You got CD-ROM, everything operates by computers. Then what happens when circuit breaks? Y2K's the big scare. Scientists say we ain't prepared. What I feel is contrary. Alexander Graham Bell made telephone jets. But now we request for your email address. I might be old-fashioned, stuck in my ways, but nothing make me more happier to see it today. Yo, welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending, new life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending, a new life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending, new life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending, a new life for man, children and women. It's a new world. It's a new world. It's a new world.
Yeah, welcome to the Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And I'm moving in no particular direction with the ideas and topics today, but there is an overarching theme that's being explored here, right? So I've talked about that several times, and I'll cue you guys in on sort of what's been on my mind in terms of the ideas that are going out there, right? And of course, we've presented a conversation about world history mainly and all the different structures, um, about the sort of world historical picture. Okay. And of course, we're looking at the conventional view of history. And obviously, there's lots of problems with this conventional view, right? Including um, this whole notion that we've come to, right, of a sort of post-humanism. Okay, and basically Alul talks about this at the end of the technological society, right? That the scientists, they basically say that all of the desires of the human being will be sort of mapped out in advance, right? So as to assure a perfect array of sort of pleasurable experiences, right? And in this, they also sort of guarantee that the person will be sort of free of tyranny in order to imagine or create whatever world they want, right? And the problem is that if they're able to um, get people into a perfect state of mind, right? So that any type of situation, right, they can endure with the proper amount of drugs and stimulation, right? So if man could be really made to endure any situation through alteration of his electro uh chemical biological state, right, then what would be the need to create a perfect world around him that is free of any troubles, right? It's kind of a paradoxical idea, right? And there's another sort of paradoxical idea that we talked about in sort of this concept of Darwin among the machines, okay, of uh, man creating technological system, right? And that being a sort of next stage in human evolution. And yeah, blessings. Yeah, we talked about this with Architects of Humanity yesterday, that there's a lot of problems, right, with this notion of evolution, especially in terms of how it has become attached to the pseudo eschatology of progress, this sort of unscientific conception, right, of the progress of man throughout history. And of course, we talked about how many different conceptions of man were sort of contained within this notion. Obviously, we talked about Joachim of Fior and the Joachimite sort of view, right? That there's three preceding stages of history. Okay, and we talked about how that was the age of the Father, the age of the Son, and the age of the Holy Spirit. Okay, so the pseudo eschatology of progress was really imposed by a religious schema, first and foremost, but it was obviously already sort of contaminated with lots of philosophical conceptions. Right. So we've been very careful to outline what those philosophical conceptions that preordained this religious schema that then parasitized on notions of man and led to the view of secular humanism, right? That man was the proper end of history, right? This was a novel conception of history. Okay, and it is basically kind of like a Hegelian conception of history. Okay, in terms of man was always progressing, right? As he says in his work, Reason in History. Okay, and he basically stated that man had first progressed at the time of Greek civilization, and then he had progressed at the time of Protestantism. Right? So he thought that these two movements were especially important for the enlargement of human freedom. And he saw both of these as comprising a Western model of history. Okay, because he said the highest sort of freedom that an Asian mind could attain to is that of a despot. Okay. So he said it's particularly in the West that this form of quote unquote freedom was idealized, right? And he said it was first the Greeks that enlarged this sense of freedom for the people as a whole and for the society as a whole. And then the Protestants finally realized it for the individual, that the individual can attain to a sense of freedom. Right? So this process of history that he called the spirit of world history sort of unfolded through time, right? We talked about this and how it influenced the Catholics, right? It went on to influence the Catholics, but actually it's a fundamentally Jewish idea, right? That is about the theology of national restoration. Okay, so obviously this was the Christians piggybacked on this concept of the theology of national restoration, right? They wanted to get to an end of history where you would have a heavenly kingdom on earth, right? And this heavenly kingdom on earth came more and more to be idealized by the state itself and then by man's creations, right? Well, the state kind of became the machine that speaks for man. And then man was himself subjected to techniques of all kinds. Right. Obviously, we know that this whole idea that man is sort of has an innate sensibility that he wants to search for power, right? Or to find a you know, a base level of expression of his innate sensibility or drive towards power. Okay, but today man's will is sublimated because the objective factor of power in our world is the technological system, right? That men use and direct on one another, and it's used on them. So we have this idea where, because of the fact that the technical has invaded into the symbolic, led to the complete sublimation of man's traditions, right? And the complete sublimation of man's reliance on nature, right? You have the technosphere using man right? In order to not only at once free man's reliance from the ecosphere, but then sort of liberate man from himself, right? Because technique is sort of the proliferation of means, right? The proliferation of means to a particular end. And let me find this this quote here. You know, there's a particular quote that is in Ellul that is very sort of to the point here. Here, give me a second here. Sorry, guys. I appreciate you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. I greatly appreciate the people that are watching here. But yeah, here's a line. He says, comprehending that the proliferation of means brings about the disappearance of the ends. Though ends disappear as a result of the magnitude of the very means at our disposal. Right? So this whole idea of the complexification of means and increased forms of mediation constitute the sublimation of man's will and the total loss of direction. Right? So you have the desacralization of knowledge in the form of the loss of traditions, and you have the desacralization of nature in the form of the loss of man's reliance on the ecosphere and his new reliance on the objective factor of power in the world, which is the technical. But the technical, as we said, totally invades man's sort of symbolic capacity. But as we said, man is a symbol-making animal, not a tool-making animal. Right? I'll take a puff of this sort of e-cigarette or whatever. Blessings. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Certain people will be on in a few. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you for participating. Obviously, it's difficult to get participants on here. Participants. Progress means that they live, you die. Exactly. Progress means regress. Yeah, that goes to one of the great ideas that we've been looking at of Rene Guénon, right? And Rene Guénon has been talking about tons of ideas. Obviously, the Cartesian sensibility, right? That first sort of split between thought and action that comes from Cartesian dualism. Right? And obviously, this leads to the ideas of Kant as well, right? Kant sort of has the physical and the moral and spiritual realms totally separate in his analysis, right? He cleaves the two worlds apart, right? The starry sky above and the moral law within. So this sort of increased sorts of dualism, and also another form of dualism. And I'm not saying dualism in terms of ontological, right? I'm saying that it's dualistic in terms of forming a dialectical tension between two conceptions. Right? But there's a sort of dualism, right? Or a dialectic between nature and time that we've been outlining. Right? Whereas nature is primary, and then because of the pseudo-eschatology of progress, time gains more importance in man's understanding, right? And especially the manufactured time, right? Based on the mechanical clock, right? So the abstract notion of time and not the natural sense of time. Okay, and this could be deduced to a loss of the cyclical understanding of time to a linear understanding of time. That's a simple way of putting it, right? And that linear understanding of time also points to the pseudo eschatology of progress, right? Because where things move in a certain direction, there needs a completion, right? Because infinity cannot be traversed. So you have to begin at some point and end at one point. So in this sort of linear model of time, right, there are certain limitations, right? But less of man's reliance on nature, on natural time, and more on the mechanical clock, right? Then you have the notion where man totally splits up thought and action, right? By the understanding of nature being like a dead thing, right? Being reduced just to matter. Okay, and this second step, or whatever we'll call it, materialism, right? This has a special consequence, right? Because as they create the mass society, they create the mass man. And the mass man is subject to quantification, right? He's subject to being reduced to a number because nature is reduced to numbers, right? So this abstract time, and the creation of the mass man through the notion of universalism, right? Because universalism, as we said, universalism sort of changes in every age to then make man the proper end of history, to then make the transformation of man the end of history, right? So first, as we said, there was Protagoras, right? He said man is the measure of all things, right? So man was a reflection of natural law, right? Then in order to become like God had to become like man. So there was an interplay between heaven and earth that corresponded with the ascension of man to the heavenly form, right? And this corresponded to the entrance of God into history, and this meant that nature was placed in a state of becoming. Finally, you had the idealization of man as God himself, right? Where they said that instead of man becoming God, right, man was to idealize God on earth, right? So this was the notion of Hermeticism, right? That like is only understood by like. In order to become like, in order to understand God, man had to become like God, right? So in this idea, God created the world in order to get to know himself and created man so that he could rise to the state of becoming like God, right? So there's this idea where man and God are on par with each other, right? Then there's this idea that what is actually divine is the transformation of man, right? So this ties into post-humanism because what is actually divine is what comes out of us. So then not man as the proper end of history, but God as the proper end of history in the rebirth of man, right? So there's all these cycles, right? But yeah, blessings to Max. Thank you for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Came to show support. Yeah, man, it's a good topic. Got deep thoughts on it, man. This is yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like liberalism leads to techno-liberalism, is like how we're saying it, like how Alul says it, is that the that liberalism the liberal system kind of gave birth to its own executioner, which is the technological system, right? So it imposes a scientific totalitarianism, right, which is not on par with humanism, right? And yeah. and it reduces man to an object.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. They've been trying to do that for the longest, and it's always about control. It's the fiction of government. That's a big one. You know, when people start to realize that government is an idea, it doesn't even exist in the physical world. It's like voting is like writing letters to Santa Claus. You know, um, now that government, you get guys that are so psychologically ahead of the understanding, probably something beyond even humans, to where they will say, okay, people are believing in this fake entity called a government. So now we're going to make another fake position called authority. And then that fake authority is going to make these fake things called laws. So instead of morality, we will use these laws to bypass morality because people are not going by thinking anymore. They're going by belief. They're believing in government, believing in authority. And it's hard to understand at first when Leary and these other people said, look, don't respect authority in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't exist. And you wonder, well, how doesn't it exist? These people are in position only there because you believe. If anybody can look through it, everybody, Congress, House of Representatives, Electoral College, every single body in politics is a criminal. And these are criminals that have put themselves in a position that play on our psychology to where, oh, I'm the so-called president or I'm the so-called mayor or something, and I know what to do better than you know what to do for yourself. And now they'll say, the law says, morality says you cannot pollute water. The law says you can to a certain degree. The law says that some people can get away with crimes and others can't. Morality says nobody can get away with the crime. So this fiction of government, authority, laws, it's hard to see through. But they like, you got some good points, man. I mean, this whole thing is set up to put us back in the pod, it seems like. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole impetus for the state and its how techniques sort of merge with the state, right, is kind of how Ellul describes it, is this notion of technical universalism, how the entire state model is basically reduced, right, where as you said, right, morality changes into laws, right, and then the appearance of legal techniques and all this type of stuff in order to sort of game the system, right, that takes precedence over sort of moral concerns. Also, the cultural status of a people is reduced to the functions of the state, right, within a technological system, so that a certain level of advancement, a certain level of communication, right, systems that also communicate in terms of international trade, right? So there's a big sort of cultural, like, like the monoculture that exists globally is imposed on people, right, through international trade mainly. Right, because you could buy the same products, right, at a gas station in California that you can in New York. So it kind of culture becomes reduced to sort of Mickey Mouse and McDonald's.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Traditions, right? So this whole idea of the birth of the state, it's actually interesting because Hobbes called the state, right, he said and really called it the artificial man, right, and this notion of the artificial man, right, which he said would be like a god, right, in terms of the sovereign state, right, in terms of the commonwealth itself, right,
It's Leviathan.
Yeah, yeah, and its own conceptual framework is like a god in the sense in which it comprises the collective will of all the citizens. So it acts as if it's an artificial man. So I mean, describing the state as this artificial man, as this autonomous entity that's sort of above the people, right? This is kind of like almost like a AI, field to like artificial man. Sort of sounds like a golem, right? Like a type of
Golem,
concept,
yes.
and
Creation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for Locke, he totally inverts the Bible, right? He says, well, these rights that exist by this state of nature are granted by God, but they're not granted to any particular person because Adam was just a dude, right? So he says, like, Adam, right, was like just walking around, right? At some point, he had desires, right? And he didn't really know what he was doing, right, in terms of creating a child and so on and so forth. So the father is really just a sperm donor, right? So he said, like, the God never gave Adam dominion, right? So Adam was not the ruler, right, of the earth, but Adam had to work in order to, by the sweat of his brow and earn everything he had. So everyone's equal. Everyone has to work to get what they have, and so on and so forth, right? So this whole idea of equality and how it created the notion of the state and how he totally usurped the biblical notions in order to do it, and how Locke was, he's kind of a strange character, anyways, right? Because Locke was an empiricist,
Yeah,
and he believed, and he believed in this notion of the tabula rasa, right?
Blank
So,
slate.
yeah, exactly. And in fact, he's one of the progenitors of this concept, right? That's used in psychology and used, to develop these advertisements that are horrible, right? And all this type of stuff to impinge on our psychology, right? Because everyone's got this little cyberspace inside of their heads, right? The tabula rasa, right? So it's okay to impinge these ideas because, of course, you're impinging them on a blank screen, right? So this whole notion of equality and obviously the notion of universalism, right, is the total destruction of culture, the total transformation of the nation-state complex into just a state, right, that merges with technique and invades the symbolic realm of man. See, man was always more or less, right, limited by two things, right? First, his natural capacity, and two, his symbolic capacity, right? So those are the only two things that limited man, right? But now, there's an objective factor of power that really overrules both, cultural symbols and also, our reliance on nature, right? And I guess that's the main point, right? That's the two things I always say is that the growth of the world technological system led to one, the loss of traditions, and two, the destruction of wild nature, right? And those are the two things that we're not getting back, right?
Yeah, of course.
Putting our eggs in this one basket.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, me being part of, like, interested in, like, what Alexander Dugin talks about. I'm a huge follower of him. Not 100%, but, like, I do follow him on X. I do read what he says, and he says the same thing, essentially. Like,
right,
this globalism of liberalism, it invades everywhere, wherever it inhabits, and it's eroding culture, it's eroding traditions, it's eroding people's relation to their being and because he is a Heideggerian. So,
right, but he's an agent of it, right? Because he's subverting the religious traditions. He's studying Kabbalah. He's working with Chabad Lubavitch and saying that he's following the perennialism of Guénon, saying that if everyone reverts to their religious traditions, that means that everybody's traditions are as good as everybody else's.
Yeah, right.
We all know that's not true, right? Yeah. We all know that's not true, right? So, so Guénon is kind of a sissy. not going on, but Dugan is kind of a sissy, right?
Yeah, he is.
In the expression of his ideals. But I definitely like what he says in the Fourth Political Theory and some of his writings about this.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, points out the system of globalism, the system of technology,
Liberalism,
the loss of traditions. Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, I don't agree with everything he says, and I do think his like obsession with like Kabbalah and like all the others and this idea of like reverting back to equalism is not ideal. Like he's not perfect, but like he is interesting though in the sense that, yeah, exactly. And of course, I don't agree. And like people, it's so dumb when people fear monger about him, saying that he's like the brain behind like the Kremlin. No, he's not. He has no fucking access to fucking Putin. None, zero. Like he has about as much access as like your Uber driver in like Moscow or St. Petersburg. He has no access to the Kremlin. He just says things like, yeah, they're influenced by his ideas of like, let's make Eurasia good again. But that's about it. Like besides that, no one really cares about like the whole like, oh, let's go study Kabbalah, let's go study, Western esotericism, No one does that inside the Russian elites. They only care about expanding into Ukraine. That's about it. That's the most they want anyways. And maybe do some, foreign embassy, foreign like mercenary work in Africa. And literally that's the most that they want, They don't want to like, reinstate like a Holy Russian Empire as what Dugin wants, right?
Yeah, we actually have a friend named Pill Eater who wrote for Arctos. So it's interesting. He's an interesting guy.
Arctos, yeah. Arctos is the people who publish a lot of like what they say the new right movements. They publish like Dugin, Spengler. Evola is there too. Evola is a big one there, yeah.
Yeah, Spengler is great. Evola's okay, but again, some of Evola is sorcery, right? So it's like
it is.
I don't know how much useful all of it is, but yeah, he speaks from the heart about liberalism, about the technological system.
What's crazy though? Like I've heard this actually somewhere. Yeah, I've heard of this before about Evola. Is that he's actually was an agent for like the Italian secret societies. I've actually heard that somewhere.
Yeah, I believe that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, and like I even think that Guénon had some influences from the Freemasons as well. I think he had some like some compassion toward them because he was heavily influenced by a lot of what the Masonics would talk about in his work. Guénon, for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, we're getting into that his theology or what he calls mystery traditions closely parallels what they're talking about. So
the Masons, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like 1 and 1. Yeah, he's even talking about Atlantis and stuff like that. So
yeah, exactly. It does make sense, yeah. And like who else was also like being accused? Even Mozart was like into like Freemasonry, like
Mozart.
Yeah, which is weird because he's Catholic. But here's the thing: is that like originally the Freemasons very early on in the Catholic Church weren't as opposed as what they are now. So I think even now it's a bit of a theater. But at the beginning, they weren't really that opposed as much from Europe. Yeah, they were actually relatively close. In fact, a lot of early Masons were Catholic. They were actually. It wasn't until like the Masons started to promote like republicanism and more of like the liberalism of like Robespierre is when they started to get like, okay, let's not be with you anymore. But still, there still was a lot of like overlap in the beginning up between them.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something about the government and the state creating man like an artificial entity and also like a king or even a god. And when you look at the way people are already worshiping the buffoon that's in office and all of the previous buffoons, it goes right along with it. I mean, the majority of people, Bonhoeffer made a good point. Stupidity we are defenseless against it. And the malicious they have weaponized the stupid, and we're basically in what seems to be an open air asylum. And if you just look through history, you start to realize, like, wow, how can I believe anything that these people have written? Anything. Even if we go back to hieroglyphs, Sumer, Hindu, Sanskrit, people lie. So when somebody says, well, this is an ancient document or whatever, and I'm like, okay, so we're taking that on the premise that people don't lie, that people won't falsify things, that couldn't have gotten into the hands of the enemy and been rescripted. Everything I look at with like religion, it, to me, because I have co-hosts on my show that are religious, and I'm like, to me, it's like they want to own forever. The same thing with the evolutionists. They want to, because that's the state's religion, basically, evolution. And it's to say, well, this life is finite, but what comes after this will be forever. You'll either won't exist forever, or you'll be with some creepy entity that wants to be with you forever. Now, when people ask me, well, don't you want to go to heaven? Not if you're going to be there. I don't want to go somewhere forever. It's like this. Everything we see is finite, but they want to own forever. Whether it's the evolutionists, religion, forever. Well, I think it's creepy, and this is just my personal opinion. I think it's creepy for forever. How is something, the only constant that I see is change, and the more I become aware, the more I realize that I can't really depend on anything that's been written, like from years ago. I can take it into account, but I must think about it. I must really think about, all right, who benefits from this? Now, quotes and stuff that people talk about throughout history, we can see that, this is pretty good advice. So it's not telling you something, this happened or this person did this. Because if you look at it, history kind of says, hey, the good guys have always won. What are the chances of that? Right? You start to be like, wait a minute, it sounds like the crooks are telling this. And the more deeper I dig, the more I find out more and more people are crooks, liars, thieves, dissidents, or whatever somebody wants to call them, divergents, deviants. So this is just an observation that, I look at, like, even with the atom thing. See, this is why evolution was created, to say, look, you don't have a purpose. It just happened by chance, even though every day we live with purpose. But ignore that, because remember, we can think for you better than you can think for you. And people actually believe that. To believe, you wouldn't trust your neighbor in office, but you're going to trust some guy that is already a crook. And if you check them, every leader that has ever been, show me one that is really good. It's possible, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, this whole thing about the creation of infinity and the creation of this whole idea of how they wanted to drive towards this constant improvement scenario, right? It sort of comes first from Plato, right? Because Plato said there's like this perfect world that exists outside of matter.
Realm
right?
of the forms.
So,
yep.
Yeah, the realm of the forms. So already they had this notion that you can have a perfect idea of man, like the heavenly man or something like that. That was like an intermediary between between God and the normal humans, right? So then they developed the notion that basically, since nature doesn't last forever, which is what Plato said, right? Plato said that nature is eternal.
Yeah.
It's like constantly emanated from the forms, right? So so it's like got to be like lasting forever. right? So when they said, well, nature is actually depreciating, right? It's in a realm of becoming, so it's imperfect, so it can't last forever. That's what Aristotle said, right? So so he said that he said there's a notion of perfectibility within each thing that it drives towards, called the telos, right? So this replaced the notion of the forms for Aristotle, right? That everything has its own perfection, right? Instead of that, its perfection exists in some external realm, which he said you can't prove that that external realm even exists, right?
Yeah.
So so then when the religious people got a hold of this idea, right, they basically said, look, we gotta sort of reduce the world to becoming, because God created the world at a particular time, right? Because infinity cannot be traversed, right? So if the world lasts forever, it would have to be on a continuum of things that just go on, right? So they said that if the world had to have a beginning, obviously it has an end, because like we're all moving towards like this heavenly thing, right? But they said it's got to have a beginning, right? Because so they created this concept of creation ex nihilo, that God created the world out of nothing, and that the world being matter and God being immaterial, this was totally fine and possible, right? Because see, God is separate from the world, A, and then nature is in a state of becoming, B. So it has to depreciate at some point, and so God created it at some point, so it can end at some point, right? So this they thought was a perfect solution, right? But when they sort of got rid of God, got rid of heaven, right, then it was like man that has to become something, right? It's man that's in a state of becoming along with nature, but that becoming has to lead to a perfectibility, right? That's still there, but it's not based on heaven,
No.
right? We created ourselves, so to speak, and so
Yeah, it's very interesting how that works. Yeah, it's almost like we always want to strive for something, and like even now we're striving for like we're starting to like replace ourselves with machines and technologies in the post-human futures, which is ever becoming more and more, a possibility. Oh, I know you. Hey, Trek, what's up?
I mean, I'm not sure if that's all of us. I think there's definitely people that aren't with the program. There's like some type of powers that be or whatever, or the people that we give powers to that are trying to put us back in machines. But there's a lot of people that want to just live naturally with the world.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's not really all of us. I think the mistake is the language. Tyranny doesn't stem from the weapon; it stems from the word. So when you look at English itself, how we cast these spells on ourselves, and we don't even know. It's like a child with a weapon that doesn't understand the damage that it can do. And language is it can be uplifting or extremely damaging. It can keep us in a mental prison, which is what we see a lot of people in. Just the belief in government, the belief in authority, the belief in laws.
I like where you're going with that. May I speak on that a little bit?
Oh well, hold on. Let me let him land his thing up, and then you can pick it up. Yeah, blessings.
Yeah. So it's like the one thing. If we start where we're at, we don't know. And this concept, I was speaking with X the other day about it, and it's like we're in this thing called existence. We're never going to figure out where we come from, like who made us, and we're never going to figure out where we're going, because death, or the next, as I call it, it's like trying to guess. You see a woman that's pregnant, you can't tell me what that child is going to look like when it's 20 years old. Even if the child is born, some people have blonde hair as a child, and when they're an adult, they have brown or black hair. Things change.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, so to try to say death is going to be this or that, we have to live with that mystery. And we have to live with the mystery that we will never know, because something can lie to us. Something can bring back the dead, all of the stuff, and can still be lying when it says that's the thing that created us. Evolution wants it to be something that just happened randomly. Mathematics disproves that. When you look at the law of probabilities, when you look at systems that cannot happen by small chances, like the blood clotting, like the nervous system, the skeletal structures, even when they try to say, well, this developed slowly. Again, another lie. Skeletons don't transform into other skeletons. We could line up a baboon, a chimp, an ape, and a gorilla and say, look, they're transforming into each other. And it looks similar, but we know for sure that they're not transforming into each other. So to do it with bones is even more the next step in idiocracy. But, to let the other gentleman have his point, before, because I know he had it in his mind there. I don't know if he's there, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. Hey, it's a simple point for me, and it is real. It's like something so simple as a vehicle. You can be take vehicle as you will. It could be your body, or it could be an automobile, which is what I'm getting into with this, is that this car, it takes me to work as I manipulate it, and I go to work and I come home. But it's not registered with them, so that's a problem.
Right.
And that in and of itself is like, now I'm scared because they're after me. They're gonna see the sticker on back of my car, and they're gonna stop me from going to work.
Well, it's kind of like you're saying the same thing that Max is saying, is that the manipulation of the symbols precedes the manipulation of the technology that it supersedes and it controls you more, whereas the manipulation of the words. And that's why we were saying that before man is a tool making animal, he's a symbol making animal.
Well, I mean, hey, take the technology out of it. Next thing you know, they're gonna want to register my feet.
Oh, that's the birth.
Right.
That's birth.
Do I have to pay taxes on my feet because my feet do work? Because my feet travel this land? I mean, I am well expired on my tags, but I take care of my vehicle.
Well, that's the thing. Is
I
that,
probably take better care of my vehicle than I do of my, human body.
right.
But what happens when, hey, you take my vehicle, the machine, the car away from me, and I have to walk to work, and then you tax my body to the point where it's like I can't afford the taxes. What are you going to take from me next?
Right. And yeah, they may get to a point where they've sort of engineered our feet to the engineered our hands to a point where we're no longer able to sort of control our as we say, they're going to be registered, they're going to have sort of nano all sorts of bugs in them that update them and so on and so forth. So I mean, our bodies, right now we're at a time where it's hard to find food that's natural, right? Almost all food on the planet is like synthetic.
It's filled
Right,
with microplastics as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're finding microplastics in clouds. A Japanese researcher has found microplastic in clouds. They're finding it in the placenta of newborn
damn.
babies. They're finding it in the stool of the newborn baby. They're finding it in the sperm of almost every man that has been tested. Microplastics are in people's semen. It is invasive everywhere. And these people that, or if they're even people that are destroying the environment that we live in, are doing it without any type of consequences. Like it's as if it's like when sheep are lined up on the slaughter line going forward.
Yeah, you guys ever hear of Stardust Solutions?
Uh,
I have heard of
Yeah.
false positives.
I've heard of it before, but I haven't delved
Yeah,
too much into it.
Stardust Solutions is like this Israeli company that wants to like seed the the stratosphere with these injections, right? So they'll spray these particulates to patch up the ozone layer. Pretty crazy.
They've had that in 1920. They got a patent for a mist and cloud fog generator. I had presented it a while back. And if you look up and you just type in how many experiments has the government done on US citizens since 1900 in the air, there's easily over 200 things over San Francisco, gassing people with cadmium and other chemicals in St. Louis, putting influenza throughout the subway system in New York. So we are being experimented on constantly with the food, the environment, school, that's a mental experiment, government as well. And when we look at it, that seems to be the trinity of what's going on. It's like we're in a zoo being observed. Experiments are being done on us like we're in a lab. And we could be being farmed as well. So those three things kind of seem to add up when I look at societies. But who's running the farm? Who has
some things that I've seen as well is false narratives and false positives. Being is that the microplastic thing. There are instances where the test that for microplastics, these things do occur in nature to where the tests that they do, it says, oh, microplastic. However, they have also been misconstrued as things that have naturally occurred. And
how does plastic occur naturally?
I mean, hey, somebody got a PhD on it, right?
I'm asking because you know how plastic is made, right?
Tell me.
Okay. It's made from a chemical process through petroleum byproducts. And now these petrochemicals create these different types of plastics. We have different grades. And when they test for plastics, one of the most cleanest ways of finding out if plastics is in a substance is using the microscope. So microplastics would be micron, millionths of 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So basically 1,000th of a millimeter. And it can be seen with a microscope. Nanoplastics would be 1 billionth. So 1,000 times smaller than a microplastic. So when they test things for these plastics that do not occur in nature, now there are natural plastics that can be made from cannabis, hemp fiber, walnuts, other type of, food, sweet potato. But these are biodegradable plastics. These plastics that are made from chemicals, from oil, which crude oil is split and made into many different things: diesel, gasoline, kerosene, which is jet fuel, and pharmaceuticals even, are made from a lot of coal and tar products. So when we test for these microplastics, this is testing for a man-made substance, a substance like, let's take aluminium. Man has to create, well, I don't think it came from man, but somebody has to create a process of creating this element that is not found naturally occurring. If it is, it's small.
That's where I give the pushback, is that if it's here and it can be combined, it's not that it's not man-made, it's that it's man accelerated. Because you just said, nature creates plastic. Hey, all of these things are part of where we are and what we have to work with. They are all ingredients to the recipe. But if if man,
right, but ones that
accelerates them.
Yeah, but it's almost like plastic is like a special ingredient, right?
Here.
Well, that's in going on the premise that man himself is naturally created just by nature. Now, when we look at plants, even rocks, bacteria, they have what appears to be a signature of construction, of fabrication, to where when you look at it, you say, wait a minute, something, I don't know what, I don't think it's a religious entity, could be. This is why I call my thing the architects of humanity. Whatever created humanity possibly created life as well as the environment for not just humans, but possibly for other things as well. So when we look at man as an accelerant, man himself, there's no way that a man is going to figure out how to pump crude oil out of the earth, split it into different types of petroleums, and make all these byproducts. Just the way when we look at certain inventions that seem to be re-engineered, the Wright brothers creating a wooden paper airplane, and then 20 years later they got jets, 30 years later they have oxygen mask in the jets. But then when you look back at Sanskrit and other cultures, you say, wait a minute, they're talking about flying machines. And even tribal cultures over here talk about the Thunderbird. So there's a very, very big mystery to human origins and origins of life itself. And what I had said before, we need to begin where we're at. We don't know. And if we go and we think we do know, everything starts to buckle. It's like putting in a floor with tiles. If one is off in the beginning, you're going to see that 30 tiles later as a big warp. So
I think it is very important. What you said is there's no way. And apparently there is a way.
And what is that way?
Well, it has been along the way to those who risk. I mean, we didn't get to the speed of sound with Chuck Yeager. We didn't get there without somebody that one, there were the engineers that built the plane, but then there was the man that said, "Hey, this is as fast as a human can go." And then it's like, well, it's going to take 3 times that to leave the atmosphere. You understand?
I mean, I don't believe what they're saying when they tell me Chuck Yeager and these fictional characters. Yeah, Chuck existed, but
Yeah.
how do we know the speed of sound wasn't broken 20,000 years ago?
Yeah, and then also, like, how do we know if it wasn't Jaeger, they would have just used somebody else because they needed to do the experiment, right?
Yeah, that also again, and I fall back into this myself because we've been trained. Remember, we went to obedience school to be traumatized. So if we don't realize we've been traumatized, we go forward again with incorrection. But if we say,
Well,
look, you know what?
I'm witness to Jesus, but when the sound barrier breaks,
what'd you say?
it busts your windows out. You know,
No, you said something. I think your mic went in and out a little. I didn't hear when you first started speaking just now.
Okay. I will speak a bit softer.
Yeah, cut out like the first part of whatever you said. Just repeat yourself.
Something, I don't know. Did you say something Jesus or something? I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I said I'm no witness to Jesus, but when your windows break out because of a sound boom, that's a modern witness to whatever is going on with technology.
I'm not saying the speed of sound doesn't exist or the sound barrier doesn't exist. I'm saying that what we've been told about it is not going to be accurate. What we've been told about anything, any type of technology, historical figure, is not going to be accurate. You got to remember that liars and thieves and cheats and murderers, the murderers write history, and it's edited by the cautious. So when we all fall back into this, well, so and so wrote about this, or this was written, and we have to think a lot on this. How do I figure out what was written and what is being told to me is true or not? How do I figure out if somebody else might have edited that, if it was written by somebody totally different? Because the people that are telling me about these ancient scriptures, scrolls, and civilizations are the criminals. Well, have you ever heard of a Greekologist or a Romanologist? No, we've never heard of a Greekologist or a Romanologist, but we've heard of an Egyptologist and an Hinduologist, because other cultures don't get to tell their own story. It is told to us through the lie of modernization.
May I ask you as well, whether it be the speed of sound or Jesus Christ or any of these stories, it's like how much of whatever affects you and how you're going to live your life, because that's when it becomes your choice. Like, am I going to be a Moolander, or am I going to be a Jesus freak, or am I, what are you going to do with your life? Because that's what, because that's when it becomes a choice. And once you have that choice, now it's on your effort. So is your effort going to, perpetuate? But again, it's effort. You're putting things up and putting things down. It is your body. This is your life.
Right, but you don't think it's all about you, do you, Untrackable? We've talked many times. You're all about sacrificing for other people, whether they be your coworkers or your family members, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, Trek. You're very, very like altruistic inside your review and life form of life, Trek. You know.
Well, I mean, sacrifice is beautiful in all that in all that is been told, but at the same time, it's like, hey, imagine sacrificing your effort and your existence for nothing. But what is nothing? And then say, hey, was it even possible in the first place? Or how far do we go with these questions?
Well, how about this? Like
Beautiful.
sacrificing, like how about this? Like how about if somebody worked their entire life to produce like something, they studied their entire life science, and then they produced like a new chemical, and then they used it, for any number of things, right? Would you think their sacrifice was appropriate to what they achieved?
Well, who was they?
Well, I'm saying like a scientist, right? Say they invent a chemical, it does some harm, it does some good. They work their whole life to study to create that chemical.
And then
That's it. They die.
I mean, I'm in my mid 40s. I am not so hung up on existence. It's like, hey, if I have I done enough? Have I done enough to be worthy to where somebody's gonna say my name tomorrow? What was it my duty to change the world? Who am I? It's like, no. To me, no. I don't give a fuck. If I find something and I share it, and it gets it gets swept under the rug, well, guess what? I don't have enough time to fight it. And honestly, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. Like, I got a family. Yeah. And what are you gonna do? I'm gonna leave my daughter a note. It's like, hey, this is the truth. Don't ever tell anybody. And then she exposes the truth. And next thing you know, it becomes a Netflix special. And then somebody gets assassinated. Come on, man. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Have you been drinking, man? A couple of beers?
Oh, for sure. I have definitely been drinking.
Just checking.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, man. Hey, reality is tough.
I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but how far can you step into the world without being questioned? And once you're questioned, what is the fight against being questioned? Because do you have it in you to fight? Because it's going to be a hell of a fight. Because they're going to bring lawyers, they're going to bring geniuses. Everybody's going to fight.
So what do you fight for, Untrackable?
I mean, I fight every single day to keep a roof over this head.
Right, so that's what I mean. We're all just struggling to survive, right?
Yeah.
And that's being imposed on us, right?
Wait, let's correct that. You don't fight every day to keep a roof over your head. You work every day to keep a roof over your head. What you fight for is different.
Well, do you know what I do
That's
for
right.
Well, do you, unless you're an MMA fighter, then you literally do fight, or a boxer, but you work to provide your living, right? Now, there are other things that you do fight for.
What do you consider fighting? What do you consider fighting?
Well, if you're going to fight for change,
What
Or
do you
fight
consider
might
fight?
not even be might not even be the proper word, because remember, they want us to talk in these terms of fight, argue, debate. Like when people tell me, well, the argument you're presenting, I'm not presenting an argument, I'm presenting evidence for a conversation. I don't debate, I don't argue, because what happens in a debate? You have a winner and a loser. You don't learn. A conversation, you can learn, you can build knowledge upon knowledge and learn from it. So
Right,
when
and
we use words like
okay,
fight,
now-
we might say,
Here, hold on, Untrackable. Let him finish.
yeah, like we
Yeah.
might be able to say, what other word can we use in place of the word fight? Is there a better, more descriptive word that would fit what we're trying to say?
Oh wow. Um,
Yeah, it's just it's like
Yeah,
we work for things, we fight for things, right?
yeah, I mean,
What do you fight for, or who do you
not
fight
sure
against?
I'm not sure if there's another word, but it is prevalence towards goals. And nobody gets to set your goals but you, and nobody gets to work towards your goals but you. So hey, I'm so sorry that maybe we don't have the same goals, and I'm not saying that about you, but as an individual, it's like uh, nobody's gonna stop me from reaching my goals. So if I have to earn a certain amount of money to pay the bills, or if I have to be at a certain place at a certain time, um, you know, that is the me that I have to be. You
Yeah, that's
understand?
certainly a good attitude, but practically speaking, obviously we do have limitations, right?
Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
what is the limit? What is the limitation that's separating you from your goal?
Like, for example, you said we all get to set our own goals, but we all have to work to survive. So we kind of can't, right?
Yeah, we all have to like compete with one another and set aside our own wants and desires for serving something else. For being part of this society, we have to level that. We have to like outsource that to something else, to like another era in our lives in the future. Yeah.
Well, let's just say you're an employee, and you have to suck it up and go to your boss,
Right.
your supervisor, and be
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm so sorry, but I have to leave right now because my family means more to me than this mission. So this mission, pays for like the roof over our heads and the foods in our mouth, but there is an individual part of my family that all of this pertains to, but I have to go right now. And they say, handle your business. Does that make sense to any of you?
It does make sense, and I'm always impressed about how little you care about Untrackable, and it's kind of a Zen approach for sure.
Very Zen. Extremely Zen, yeah.
but yeah, blessings to the people. And yeah, maybe we'll look at a little bit of Bostrom's article here, as preparation for tomorrow. So let me pull this up here for you guys and see what you guys think. We were on a certain part of it, so let me kind of get to the part that we're at. And he's bringing up this idea of in vitro fertilization. And of course, he's sort of going towards the idea of genetic engineering, right? And also definitely pharmacogenomics, but he's pretty much seeking the ethical conditions for eugenics. right? Like, for example, he brought up Peter Singer's argument. Untrackable. There's a sort of bit of a feedback coming from your mic there. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. And it says, for any condition X, if it would be a form of child abuse for parents to inflict X on their child soon after birth, then it must, other things being equal, at least be permissible to take steps to prevent one's child having that condition. So it says that this is ethical equivalence between environmental and genetic interventions. Preventive principle. So I'll read it again. It says, for any condition X, if it would be a form of child abuse for parents to inflict X on their child soon after birth, then it must, other things being equal, at least be permissible to take steps to prevent one's child having that condition. So we were talking about this, right? And obviously intervening in the child's life for the appropriate, to form the appropriate conditions for success, altering their genetics and so on and so forth. I don't know, highly questionable, definitely, but he's saying this is an ethical principle that should be employed. Right. So if this happens, obviously, I don't think that parents will have complete control over their children. Yeah. Thank you, Untrackable, for joining us. Blessings.
See you later, Untrackable. Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night. Yeah. No.
Oh, you're right. Oh, all right. Yeah. Have a good night, brother. It's Yeah, I didn't know you were going to stream tonight. I thought it was Wednesday, and
we are. Yeah, we are doing it on Wednesday too.
Yeah, because I was like, it's a good thing I checked it. I was like, but yeah, I'll try to come tomorrow and hang out for a little bit. What time are you streaming tomorrow? Same time?
Yes, same time tomorrow. Yeah, and then on Saturday, same time as well. So.
All right. Yeah, because yeah, I stream every night. I had a stream set up for a little past 11. I'll hang out for like another 20 minutes, and then
I'll send the remainder of my audience there after I'm done it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Always good conversation here, man. Untrackable brings up some good questions. It's all about.
He's bringing up individualism in his own sort of way, So
yeah. This is where one of my friends, she tells me we're all just walking each other home. And that's, I think, a belief from her religion, but I think it goes beyond religion. I don't think I'll ever figure out what existence is. I don't know if you've ever heard the Mount Meru Sanskrit scenario where every 100,000 years there's a king that's like a king of kings, and when he dies he gets to write his name on the legendary Mount Meru up in the abode of the deities. And this one king, he achieves that, and he goes up there, he sees the guardian at the mountain, and he goes, I'm so-and-so. He goes, yeah. We've been waiting for you. You're that great king, right? Greater than all the other kings. Yeah. He goes, all right. Don't I get to sign my name on the mountain? He's like, yeah, sure. It's right here. So he walks up to the mountain, and it's just covered with names of all of these other kings from the past, to where there's not even a little bit of room for him to sign his name. And he goes, well, where am I going to sign my name, man? He goes, just erase one of the other names and then mark your name in there. And he looks at him and he's like, wait, so that there's no so then what if when somebody else comes, then they'll do the same thing to my name? And he's like, yeah. He goes, that's been happening since, forever. And at that point, he realizes that it's not about some type of achievement of you becoming something. He sees that existence really seems to be in the service of others. So it's like, if we both have a house that we built. Sometimes it's easier to help somebody else fix something where they live than something that we got to fix at our house. And you can see this scenario with men who are married with wives. One guy will go over his friend's house. Oh yeah, let's fix this thing over here. But meanwhile, back at his house, he needs to fix that too. But he's more like motivated to help somebody else fix what they need to be fixed. Now, if that person were to be just as motivated to help that man fix what he needs to fix, then we start working in accordance to say, hey, you know what? I can see easier what you need to fix than what I need to fix. But you can see what I need to fix easier than what I can see what I need to fix. It's sort of like if you don't have a mirror and somebody looks at you, they can tell you, hey, you got something, just fix your hair, or, wipe, you got a little thing, a piece of lint on your shirt in a spot where you can't see it, just the way you can see them and help them. There's also a scenario religious people talk about hell like that, where it's a big 10-foot pot, everybody's sitting around it with spoons that are 10 feet long. So now you can't feed yourself with the spoon, so you'll starve to death. But you can pick up some soup from inside of that 10-foot bowl and reach across and feed the person across from you, because the spoon is 10 feet long. It's just long enough to reach them, but too long to reach you. And the same thing with their spoon. Their spoon can't reach them, but it can reach you. So it's heaven if we work together and feed each other. It's hell if we try to feed ourselves. And this scenario, the Mount Meru, it's not about signing your name up there. It's about, what did you experience? It's like you hear guys having sex for a number. Oh, so many women or whatever, right? And I'm saying, is that the object of sex? Isn't it to enjoy it? If I had sex one time and enjoyed it for an hour, the best, that's worth more than somebody else having sex for their entire lifetime that's mediocre or meaningless. So that brings in meaning. When you have meaning and purpose, a lot of other things just tend to disappear. They tend to melt away. You start to see what matters is what stays. Just like friends. When you get successful or you accomplish something, you'll see the real people, they'll still be there. The fake people will fade away. It's a good way to cleanse your circle, to test. I think it was Teddy Atlas, the trainer. He said, how did this guy prove himself to be your friend? What did he do? How do you know he can be trusted? Why do you call him your friend? What has he accomplished? What has he proven to you? And this is what we make the mistake of, the difference between associates, friends, and the thing about friends too is betrayal. The betrayal never comes from your enemies. So it would make sense that we scrutinize more about the people we have around us, push, pull. Usually you don't see what's inside of somebody until you squeeze them. Sometimes you got to squeeze them a little hard to see what's inside. And then sometimes if you squeeze somebody, like a good example is you see somebody at the counter and you're buying something and you're unkind to them. Or say you see a scenario between two people. The one guy could go to the counter and be like, here's the freaking money, and just throw it on the counter and walk away. Now, it's going to tell us what's inside of the person behind the counter. Because if the person behind that counter reacts with, man, he takes the money, puts it in the register, like, that guy must be having a hard day, or, I don't know, I guess he's going through issues. that guy seems to be genuine. But if the guy responds with anything of anger, of disrespect, that's what's inside of him, hiding behind a smile. And the only way for someone to disrespect someone else, it stems from not respecting ourselves. If I respect myself, I can't pollute the earth. I can't disrespect somebody else. And of course, that comes from respecting myself. So I can't disrespect myself. But if I disrespect anybody, if I pollute, if I do that, where does that come from psychologically? It comes from thinking that you're worthless. You don't respect yourself. Like you see many people say, oh, they would die for their kids. Well, how about living for your kids? You won't do that, right? And again, it goes back to the words. Words are extremely powerful. I've written a few books on them. The anagrams alone in words are just on another level. You start to say something is speaking to me through this language. Like when you look at the word president, and you can take the letters and respell it into the two words is pretend. And you say, wait a second. The word president can be respelled into is pretend. And the key is respelled. So it's kind of like putting on the glasses from the movie They Live, looking at the word president and then seeing it form the other word.
Right.
Right. So
yeah.
And we see this with many things. This is why I wrote the book Secret Words, to say in phrases, a phrase, area 51, if you spell it out, FIFTY, area 51, you can respell those words into fear a tiny foe. There's no way that's going to happen by chance. Just the way is pretend can be respelled into president and vice versa. This is not happening by chance, because if it were just those two words, somebody would have something to start with to say, well, wait a second, we don't find it anywhere else. I have continuous proof. If you take the phrase, the U.S. presidential elections, now that's a sentence. The U.S. presidential elections, that can be respelled, every letter, no adding, no putting back in. You can respell the sentence, elite hustlers in a deception. Now, this seems almost unbelievable, but it does respell into that exactly. If you take the word Catholic priest, that respells into satanic cloth. And this is using every letter. If you take the word priest, a priest, right? The word a and then priest, it respells into the word it rapes. And we say grapes, I know, stay within the guidelines, but
yeah, it's cool. It's cool. We're
yeah, because I'm doing it in context, so the
yeah,
AI
we're kind of clean on TOS right now, so we could have a few fumble ups. But
yeah, no, the AI will listen and will say, okay, they said terms of service, they're staying within terms of service.
Yeah, it's all good. No worries, brother.
But that's when you think of it, you say, wait a minute. So a priest, and what is, not all priests, but what is a priest associated with? Those same two words, graping and or grapes, that is just, television. The word television respells into tone is evil. So tone, T-O-N-E, is evil. Those letters respell into the word television and can be broken apart and spell the three words tone is evil. If you take cable television and you respell those words, it can spell bestial violence. And what do we see on cable television? Bestial violence. You have some other shows, but you do have a lot of bestial violence. A kid that is under 10 has seen approximately 8,000 murders on media. Now with social media, it's probably more. And that's feeding the mind. So that's like saying, okay, a kid that ate McDonald's and junk food, he might have problems, weight, whatever. But imagine eating garbage like that, worse for your mind until you're 10. Imagine the mentality. The kid is rotten. I mean, we've all been fed television to where we're rotten. I saw a meme years ago. It said, tell me what your best day of television was, to show you how worthless it is. It's like, what was the best day that I've ever played video games? I don't think that there was. I mean, I don't play anymore, but it showed me how, wow, I wasted a lot of time. And it was a distraction created by government and people in government, because if you're inventing things to distract each other, you're doing the work for them. But distract me from what? That's the big question. What is this distracting me from? What type of power do I possess that I don't know I possess, that $1 billion, $100 billion, $1 trillion propaganda machine is trying to prevent me from seeing? And that's what it feels like. It feels like something is trying to prevent me from seeing the checkmate on the board. Because when you can see it and say, oh, I already have a win, checkmate in 12, which is astonishing. Usually it's like a checkmate in 8 or 4 or something like that, but a checkmate in 12. But now the opponent tries to distract you, starts humming, singing, dropping stuff on the floor. That's the football games. That's the music. That's the other people in society distracting you. Politics, stuff like that. There's something that, I don't know what the purpose is, but there's some purpose. And something seems to be distracting me from it. I don't know what that thing is, but I clearly know what the distractions are. Entertain, to entertain, entertainment. Entertain means to distract, to divert, to hold the attention of. Now, people should look these definitions up and save them, because definitions are changing. The definition of terrorism, I think in 2014 in the English Oxford Dictionary, was intimidation by government. It doesn't say that anymore. You might still find a definition of terrorism as using violence to achieve a political goal. So that being the definition as well, which is very similar to intimidation by government, shows us that the government are the biggest terrorists around.
Yeah, and I remember when the when the Muslim guy got out of the minivan and then stabbed a few people, they called it terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the stuff that they do to people today, I did a stream on Dr. Jose Delgado. He was a research doctor, scientist in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And now anybody can look this up. He created or maybe re-engineered radio devices to stop a bull from charging with an implant in the brain.
Yep.
Now, they have achieved that. I didn't post it yet, but they have achieved it where, as a matter of fact, I did a stream on it a couple of days ago called Radio Controlled Humans. Now they can do it with certain chemicals, and it can target even your cells to open a pathway in your cell to allow chemicals in there, which of course they will say are medicines that help people. But it can also, a spoon can be used to eat or gouge somebody's eye out with. So you can use it both ways. It heats up the body. So now you have an electronic device that can work on a radio wave frequency without an implant that can affect you on a cellular level. This is a fact. So imagine the stuff that they have that they haven't told us about. We're living in such an amazing time of, like, I'm a Generation X, so I remember the 80s. and even the late 70s to an extent. I was very young. But when I look at the stuff now, this is the stuff beyond what we dreamed about. We used to be at the pay telephone in the 80s saying, in the future, you'll be able to see the person's picture when you're calling them from one of these pay phones. And of course, like an idiot, we thought that, but we didn't think, no, it's going to be in the hand, like beyond Star Trek. And matter of fact, you're not even going to be calling each other. You're going to be typing to each other more than you're calling sometimes. You're going to be able to receive pictures because that thing is going to have a camera and it's going to have a video camera. I mean, these things were, I didn't think, nobody thought of that. We thought of it the basic way that we had been lobotomized through school. So we think of it, oh no, it'll be the payphone. So the same piece of crap we're using in a booth or on a wall and we have to put money into, and who knows what the heck is on this receiver. You better have like a piece of cloth to cover it before you even put your mouth to it or your ear. No, it will still have these crude devices, but it'll have a video camera in it and stuff like that to show you the level of mental damage that schooling does and just being around other people. But yeah, I just noticed you had some stuff on the screen. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I just have it in the background. This is the CIA document, for Andrija Puharich, his direct brain stimulation.
Wow.
To produce sensations. Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yeah, I'll put that in the private chat for you guys. Actually, I guess I could just put it in the actual chat too. So yeah, but yeah, it's crazy stuff. But yeah, I think this was like in the 80s. But yeah, DBS, direct brain stimulation, right? But yeah.
The crazy thing is, these are the things they're showing us. And I got to always remember that it's usually between 40 and 70 years behind. So whatever we see right now has been out for at least 40, possibly 70, or even more. The fact that Metropolis is over 100 years old, that movie, and it was a silent film, but it's a silent film about a female robot. When you look at, you're saying, wait a minute, they made a movie in the early 20s about scientists creating a female robot that gives birth to human workers. I mean, it's almost like when you look at it, you're saying, wait a second, who shaped the metal and stuff for the robot face? Like who, why would you even, where do you get this concept from? For Metropolis, and then the name of the movie itself, Metropolis, a gigantic city. So is it I wonder, I think we talked about it a day or two ago, where the frog cells are being used to power computers. Human brain cells are used to power the CPUs of computers.
Yeah, one of our buddies did a presentation on it, a quite in-depth presentation.
Yeah. So now, if we add that up to all of these data centers being created, I think there's over 4,000 in the country now, 300 in New York alone, and over 600 in Texas, and I think close to 6 in Cali. But all right, we say, okay, so these brain cells that they say they grew in a petri dish or vat are used, and they last for about 6 months. And there was an article that I think I remember they were talking about using blood and other nutrients to keep the cells alive longer. So I don't know if that's used to keep it alive to the 6 months, or it's just the 6 months with just the cells. But instead of having to look for a way to regenerate those cells, why not just plug somebody in? Because nobody really knows the purpose of these data centers. People, to think, okay, so it's what? So I can make quick videos and pictures and talk to a computer about, writing and stuff. I think it's a bit more than that. And especially with the radio controlled stuff that they bring in, that stuff itself is just on another level. I mean, we're basically in a brave new world. right now, like the Aldous Huxley book and movie. Come
Yeah,
out. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. Actually, he was one of the people who popularized the English translation of the Technological Society by Jacques Ellul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He said it's not enough to have people build their own concentration camp. He goes, no. You have to be proud of it. You have to defend it. He goes, people will be walking around in a painless pharmaceutical concentration camp without walls. And I think that's what he spoke about, the drug Soma in Brave New World, the drug that's used for everything,
Yeah.
and it just
Numbs
this
people.
yeah. Now today we definitely have various types of Soma.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, Soma comes in digital form, basically digital crack, and that's what we're all
Dopamine.
addicted to. We are to an extent all digital crack addicts, and I have to admit, again, honesty, admittance, that's the first
Yeah.
step to any type of healing. To say, okay, I am a digital crack addict. Or better yet, to empower myself more, I can be addicted to digital crack, but I can also refrain from it. Like today, when I went to the supermarket, and I said, it was later, like 7 or something. I said, I'm just going to leave my phone home and just go to the supermarket. And, I came back and checked, I had one text, and it was like, I was like, it's not anything business, but it felt good to not have it in my pocket because it weighs down my pants, or have it in the car because it's like the radiation. There's always radiation coming off of it. So it also reminded me of the old days in the early 90s. I mean, I remember we had beepers. Why? I don't know. Just, for ego. Because if somebody beeped you, you had to go to a payphone to call them. But yeah, it was just a few thoughts, man. I figured I wanted to come by, show support today, and yeah, I'll come tomorrow too, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, my friend.
You got it.
Yeah, it's been a great blessing talking to you, man.
All right, same here,
Yeah, I
bro.
appreciate you. Yeah,
Appreciate
it's
it.
also a great pleasure. I'm hearing about your book that you wrote. Definitely
Oh
interested.
yeah, The Secret
know more about
Words. Yeah.
No, not that one. The one we were talking about yesterday, Architects of Humanity.
Architects of Humanity. Yeah, I'm working
Yeah.
on that. Hopefully, I can have that published like very soon. I'm publishing it on Amazon. Yeah, man. It's going very well. It was a 3-part series, so I'm still, thinking about which one would I release first. But yeah, it will all be in line. Yeah, Architects of Humanity, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely intriguing perspective.
Of genetics, right? Yeah.
Oh
It's, yeah, man. Yeah. I'll definitely keep you posted on it, and yeah, I'll check back tomorrow night, man. You guys take care.
You
Yeah.
too, man. Take care, Maxed Out.
Easy.
Oh, they got Uri Geller. So yeah, this is the experiments they did with Uri Geller in parapsychology and all that stuff. So yeah, and it says in the beginning of this that the subject is an Israeli. Let's get it here. Wait, where'd it go? Oh yeah. 24-year-old Israeli male has been investigated under field research conditions for 6 months, and it has been concluded that he possesses the power of direct brain action. It is now proposed to bring him into a laboratory situation to be studied by a group of scientists. Yeah. So yeah,
It's sad, Jamon.
it's all wild stuff, but yeah.
It is, yeah. It does. Just very, very a depressing stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to ask on Trackable about that genetic engineering thing, but it kind of dropped out. But yeah, blessings to
Yeah.
Trackable because Yeah, so I mean, essentially, what Singer is saying is that if your children are deemed like genetically not up to par, they can be like basically preventative measures can be taken because that's child abuse, right? And you're causing environmental pollution. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting idea that he has. I'm not sure how a lot of people would react to that idea, but definitely post-human in a sense, right?
Oh yeah. Peter
Yeah,
Singer.
yeah, he's been one of the first to ask about the ethical conditions for human life.
Yeah. He's very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Div-
weird dude.
Hmm?
A weird dude for sure.
Oh yeah, he's a weird dude. Yeah, he's considered a negative utilitarian. He says that like I think he argued that like it's okay to like commit like infanticide. I think in one essay he did say that it's okay to like brutally murder a child, but not brutally murder an animal. Yeah, he has weird takes like that. Like he's pure like a utilitarian. Like causing the least amount of suffering, but like his ideas they've implemented would cause suffering inside other areas of like society and like whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, he also has interesting ideas about Marx and Hegel.
Oh yeah.
Where he's talked about how Marx is sort of the very completion of Hegel's dialectic because he's a material antithesis to Hegel's spiritualism. It's a wild idea, but
Idealism. Oh yeah, of course. I've heard him talk about that before. Actually, Peter Singer on one video on YouTube, he was in an interview and he talked about that exact same thing. That Marx is like the final materialist conclusion for Hegel's idealism inside our like our a material centric world. Because I think for all intents and purposes, Peter Singer is influenced by like conventional Marxism. He is, at least in terms of like the political side. Yeah. Though there's some people who want to like bring back Hegel purely, like Slavoj Žižek. He wants to bring back Hegel, like only him exclusively, almost it seems.
yeah, we kind of looked at Hegel and Marx. I don't think either one is really preferable.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like staunchly against both of them. And also, I recommend the book Glenn McGee, Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition, and
Mm.
others ideas. I think there's way more to Hegel in terms of the Kabbalah and Hermeticism. That's not being put forward, and I think the same can be said for Spinoza and Leibniz.
Oh yeah, Spinoza
They-
is very into like the Kabbalistic esotericism. That's kind of in
Yeah.
his view of God. Yeah, because I think in Kabbalah, right, God also suffers with man and has to create things with man, and like in Spinoza, God is like nature. He is the universe, and there is no free will within Spinoza, and like both good and evil happen within God. That's a strong analogy towards how like the occultists inside the Kabbalah see God. God encompasses both things, all things. But he actually expresses them, and good and evil, light and dark, wholes and pieces, and all stuff like that. And so, yeah, there's definitely a strong, at least in terms of the question of God, influence from Kabbalah to Spinoza. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Mhm.
And in terms of the monotheism, that I guess Spinoza expressed, he did make some statements where he thought this was like the God of Judaism or something like that. So very interesting
Oh, yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So I'm not sure that Leibniz came to a similar. I know Leibniz was hardcore Rosicrucian, or something like that. It is definitely very much associated with them, and with this Mercurius van Helmont or whatever this dude, right? But yeah.
Oh yeah, Hegel. No. Leibniz is definitely a Rosicrucian inside a lot of aspects. He also did study the Chinese text, the I Ching, and he says there's a lot more parallels between this book and any other Western book in in this era. And he was influenced by it to make his mathematical equations, from the I Ching, the Chinese book of divination. So it's really cool that he also brought. He was one of the first people to bridge East and Western thought, and to have emphasis of it in some ways. It wasn't strong, but it was very. It was one of the early attempts to do that when a lot of European thinkers didn't really think too much about the Chinese thought or Eastern thought in general.
Yeah, we're gonna bring back the Shang Zhu on this show, and we're gonna do a bunch of stuff in terms of Zen Buddhism. So I appreciate you guys for joining today. Would you guys like to say any closing remarks to the people, and we'll sort of end this session, and we'll start a new one tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be here tomorrow, and it'll be a longer stream. Honestly, I've not been able to sleep recently, so I don't know what's going on. So horrible stuff with that, but yeah, horrible time trying to sleep. So I appreciate you guys, but yeah, blessings to all the people, and so go ahead, guys.
Closing remarks. Just want to say thank you, Machine Lives, for streaming as always, for spreading good ideas. It's always wonderful and beautiful to share ideas with people and have conversations. Very enlightening, and yeah, I can't ask for anything more than this. So thank you once again for the privilege.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much, my friend. And definitely, we'll be holding the space, and I greatly appreciate your input. Very insightful, and on a range of issues that we talk about. Definitely similar thoughts that we have. So. I greatly appreciate your time, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, how about you, Red? You got anything?
Do not seek the treasure.
Yeah, blessings. Yeah, thank you so much for being here with me, Red. Red is basically like the co-host. We have sort of an unofficial guy that sometimes comes by called Neuro Jack. And of course we got the LORP in the chat. So yeah, so we got the whole basically the squad or whatever, right? But yeah, there's not too many other people that really call in and engage with us. But yeah, greatly appreciate you, Fatima. Obviously there's Buddha. So yeah, blessings to Buddha wherever he's at.
Yeah, wherever he is. Yeah, of course. We all wish him well on his book. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
read it. Yeah, we'd love to read the
looking
book.
that over. Oh yeah, huge props on that. It's looking like
a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people are coming out with works like L.A. Dom.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That there's so many people in this sort of unit of discussions where there's lots of published authors, and so that's beginning to be good. I like the nature of the discussions. I like the heaviness of the topics and all that type of stuff. So that's really the better part of this experience. And even on Finding Gnosis, I went on there. They pressured me to answer questions about Islam for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Not surprising.
I was watching that, and like I can tell that like those guys, they don't really understand like the nuances of the Islamic faith or any like religious faith. Like there is the literal readings, and then there's this symbolic readings that all religions have, and Islam has a lot of that. Yeah, like I was influenced by it. Like I think my favorite Islamic thinker, I wrote it in the comments, was Al
That's
Ghazali.
that's
Yeah.
surprising that me and you can talk a lot about that, because that's one of my top guys for sure.
Al Ghazali, yeah, he's very, very good. Oh my
Yeah.
God, he is like the master. Like he's kind of like the Aquinas of the Islamic world, almost.
Yeah.
Ghazali, but I like him more than Aquinas. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like very anti-reason and logic, though. It's kind of like he uses like a lot of weird tricks to get himself out of like.
Oh yeah. Some people say that like he's like the Islamic answer to Soren Kierkegaard. Yeah, and they're right. For yeah, I would say there's some overlap, heavy overlap there between Al Ghazali and Soren. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ideas about. Well, he became a sweeper at a mosque, right? And then
Yeah, he did.
and then they're arguing about an opinion that they came to the conclusion about from his works, and he answered them and then like ran away, and somebody said, do you know who that was that just answered your question? They said that was the Imam Ghazali himself. Right?
Yeah, that was the man.
Sweeping at the mosque. Yeah.
Super
So-
cool. Yeah, very good. Very, very interesting guy, interesting person.
Yeah, I like a lot of the Christian philosophers too. I like Anselm a lot.
Anselm, yeah, ontological argument, yeah.
I like Anselm.
Yeah.
I really like more his story with the bunny, right, where he yells at the people because he didn't want them to run over this bunny, and he
Oh,
gives
yeah.
a speech about this bunny, right?
That's really cool, yeah. And of course, like I think my favorite besides Kierkegaard in like the medieval times would be William of Ockham. I think he's really interesting, and maybe Augustine, because Augustine's life is super interesting to me. He was a pagan and then became Catholic, but some people say that there were still some leftovers of his like his Gnosticism to like his like his Christian conversion, which I can see that some influence there with Augustine's, because he was a Neoplatonist occultist before he became like a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah. We're actually actually we read some of Augustine on the show. I think it's really interesting. I think it's interesting how he uses the concept of non-existence in terms of sin and all that stuff. So I think it relates to the Parmenides, right?
Parmenides, yeah.
So we took a huge look at Parmenides. We're actually gonna go back to looking at the Eleatic thinkers, and then we're gonna go and look at the sophists. So we're still relatively like taking baby steps in the exploration of philosophy on the show. But I laid out some of the I think the top issues. Like I laid out Parmenides and Heraclitus for people. They really chewed on it. We had tons of discussions on it with
the debate, yeah.
a few people. Yeah, debates, discussions. Right? It was interesting.
Yeah, of course. People like Heidegger said that we lost all of the source of truth whenever we forgot like the main issue between Heraclitus and Parmenides. And after them, it kind of became like a ruining of philosophy, or like the amnesia towards being, yeah, because of like Platonism and all of the philosophies that came after him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also question concerning technology. We'll be looking at Heidegger, on that. taking a
Yeah.
deep look at that. So yeah, so I appreciate you guys. Yeah, blessings to all the people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the music and of course go and check out Architects of Humanity. They're talking about the state. Obviously, I'm not a proponent of the state, of the political organizations of the modern world or modern synthesis or whatever. So yeah, I'm not an appreciator of the state model, as we talked about, divorced from the nation or the people, right, and so on and so forth. So interesting stuff is going on, but yeah, so go check him out. And
Next out, yeah.
yeah, and I appreciate it. And thank you to Max for coming on the show as well. So yeah, blessings to the people and okay, yeah, so enjoy the music. Blessings. Thank you for joining us here on the Machine Line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where we
Yep.
talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And yeah, check us out next time, folks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Much
blessings.
love to all. Yep.
Yeah, much love. Yeah, thank you. And oh yeah, whoops. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with this. Play a little songs for you guys. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Come check us out. Thank you guys.
Damn, she's got that look in her eyes, Core.
Yeah, I see it. Too bad she's to die for. I guess she doesn't know she's worth it. She's got the body of a goddess, but a mind much less than perfect. Surface conversations great, but wait till after the show. I seen her break and take the bait to the front row. While the blunt's slow, burning in the back, she approaches her big name and says he has a knack for rap and how his shit was fat. She really likes his style until he starts to smile. While the others look on and some get hooked on being a star. We see from afar how it goes. Now suppose the situation's yours. Could you resist if they came by the fours or more? Whores in plain clothes, they got the same gold stained souls. Some are unnamed hoes, getting stuck, sitting ducks in the water. Now how would you feel if one of them was your daughter? You brought her up your best, but nonetheless, you can't control the destiny of a groupie. You were swallowed by the sea of the lonely, low lifestyle. Rather foul how you live it. And oftentimes I see it, boy, it makes me think twice how I value my vision. Swallowed by the sea of the lonely, low lifestyles. It's rather foul how you live it. And oftentimes I see it, boy, it makes me think twice how I value my vision.
I'm from a group that be doing some things, but animosity keeps surrounding the name. Mystic, unsigned and hella broke. Self-home promoted and devoted, we keep laughing at jokes around the road to enlightenment. It's a trip when you pay hella dues and fools fill your shoes up. I guess it's more like a compliment if they realize all the blood, sweat, and tears in the lives of men who put their life on the line beyond the fresh battle rhyme. You was jocking metaphor time. And give it up like my single and get your ass up for the track party people. It's a balance of a lyric and some music all in one, creatively way above the minds of the dumb. Come back to the truth, we'll be waiting, fronting on advancement, eternally debating. Swallowed by the sea of the lowly, low lifestyles. It's rather foul how you living. And oftentimes I see a boy make me think twice how I value my vision. Swallowed by the sea of the lonely, low lifestyles. It's rather foul how you living. And oftentimes I see a boy make me think twice how I value my vision.
You hip hop heads don't see me for really who I am. So how'd you be my man? You always asking me for beats and shit. When really I'd like to help, but I haven't even peeped your shit. I come as equipped as I can, and that's my plan. I give a fuck less about Polo and Timberland, or how many hands I give pounds to. I don't surround you with lyrics in your ear, motherfucker. Do you hear English? Sing this song back. It's not a long track. Use the palm clap to keep it on time. I'm on the climb. I'm up front, not sublime. I watch you bitches like mimes, cause you don't need lines to read your minds. I only roll with originators, down to earth players, chilling like refrigerators. You haters, I didn't buy my shit for you, so if you don't like it, keep quiet, cause I do only a few fools as folks. You other jokes spoke too quickly. Mother told me not to hang around with sickly looking individuals with no visual perception. I suggest you step in, go your own direction. You were swallowed by the sea of the lonely low lifestyles. It's rather foul how you live it, and oftentimes I see it, boy, it makes me think twice how I value my vision. Swallowed by the sea of the lonely low lifestyles. It's rather foul how you live it, and oftentimes I see it, boy, it makes me think twice how I value my vision. I value my vision. I value my vision.
It's a new world. 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 Yo, celebrate the new life. New ways to make money. New ways to break dummies. Forge they name and take money. Computers ain't that smart. Whatever man built could be taken apart. Anything new can get old. Like dudes started rocking platinum. Some stopped wearing gold. Solar energized rides. No steering wheel. Tell it how to drive. No propellers in the sky. Airplanes like mini rockets. Waiting lists for the rich to get tickets to visit Mars. While the poor people starve. Computers taking over their jobs. A man's forced to live off land. Now it's back to the caveman era, when we made fire by two sticks rubbing together. The truth is many are too scared of new data. America online, cut off, see you later. Yo, welcome to the new world, new beginning. A new way to play, a new way of living. Past is the past, a new way of spending. New life for man, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning. A new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for man, children and women. Yo, the new Mike Tyson's Roy Jones. Bill Clinton is the new JFK. Without the hole in his dome, the new Don Trump is Bill Gates. Not because it's occupation, it's cause we respect his cake. The cake meaning stock, net gross. Young kids step it up, go for the most. New cameras and police cars taking pictures. New hustlers getting new street figures. And US embassies overseas. Almost every foreign country's under siege. Covertly starting wars. CIA, Navy SEALs commit larcenies that be worth over millions. Oil in the earth spills. Girls blow their body up, birth control pills. Africans pick diamonds out of dark caves. Then we wear it on our necks just so we can light up the stage. Yo, welcome to the new world, new beginning. A new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. New life for men, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning. A new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for men, children and women. Say goodbye to the brainwashed. Say goodbye to the young kids who not smart. Say goodbye to the toasters and Pop-Tarts. Yo, it's real. Swallow a little pill is a full course meal. Say hello to the one world. Say hello to the sky. Something's out there watching you and I. More Tyson than Star Trek. Star Trek phones. Your genes and DNA is used to make clones. You got CD-ROM. Everything operates by computers. Then what happens when circuit breaks? Y2K's the big scare. Scientists say we ain't prepared. What I feel is contrary. Alexander Graham Bell made telephones, yes, but now we request for your email address. I might be old-fashioned, stuck in my ways, but nothing make me more happier than seeing today. Yo, welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. New life for men, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Cash is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for men, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning, a new way to play, a new way of living. Past is the past, a new way of spending. New life for men, children and women. Welcome to the new world, new beginning. A new way to play, a new way of living. The past is the past, a new way of spending. A new life for men, children and women. It's a new world. It's a new world. It's a new world.